What if the man who took everything from Anthony Joshua is now the same man trying to give it all back? Think about that for a second. Usyk beats AJ twice, strips him of his titles, ends his reign, and now he's pulling him into training camp, calling him his brother, and reportedly helping him build towards the one fight that could resurrect his entire legacy. A shot at Tyson Fury. This is not a movie script. This is actually happening. And when Usyk finally spoke about it, what he said stopped people in their tracks. We are getting into all of it right now. To understand why this whole situation is so mad, you have to go back and remember where Anthony Joshua was not that long ago. This is a man who had the boxing world in the palm of his hand. Two-time heavyweight champion, sold out Wembley, the face of British boxing. And then Usyk happened, twice. And the second loss in particular, Saudi Arabia, 2023, that one really seemed to shake something in AJ beyond just the result. The belt losses were one thing, but there was clearly something deeper going on personally and mentally in the period that followed. So when the news started coming out that Joshua had linked up with Usyk's training camp, a lot of people's first reaction was confusion. Why would Usyk help him? Why would AJ go there of all places? To the guy who beat him? It felt weird. Until Usyk started talking about it, and suddenly the whole thing made complete sense.
Does anyone else think Anthony Joshua and Usyk's relationship is getting a little bit, interesting? I think Usyk might be falling in love. And you might be asking, what do you mean by that? They're always together now. Look at the way they look at each other. Glancing across the couch, AJ and Usyk joking around. But that's not it, let me show you some videos. Then, you've got AJ here on the back. Seems like a pretty normal video. And then he's always watching, isn't he? He's always watching.
You like coconut? Yes, you like. We drink cold coconut with ice and music. Reggae. Yeah.
And then Usyk brings him to meet the family as well. I have a fucking clue what's going on. But no, on a serious note, the bromance is beautiful. We need more of this in boxing.
Right, so here's where it gets really good. Because Usyk does not talk about AJ the way you'd expect a rival to talk about someone they've beaten twice. He calls him his big brother, his words. Not a training partner, not an opponent from his past, not someone he's doing a favor for. His big brother. He says Anthony is not from his reels anymore, not his opponent, not someone he has any beef with. He is his partner and his brother, and Usyk means every single word of it. He talks about showing Joshua his culture, taking him to his church, which Usyk has always made clear is one of the most important places in his life, cooking him Ukrainian food, introducing him to Ukrainian music. This man did not just invite AJ to hit pads and go home. He brought him into his actual life. That is a different level of hospitality from someone you supposedly have nothing but a professional relationship with. And then Usyk says something that tells you everything about how he sees Joshua. He says AJ is kind, well-behaved, hard-working, smart, and he backs it up with a specific moment from camp where he caught Joshua doing an exercise wrong, showed him the correct version, and within 2 or 3 reps, AJ had it completely locked in. Usyk's genuine reaction to that was surprise and admiration. He was like, "Oh my god, bro. Yes, he's got it." That right there is not a man who sees Joshua as beneath him. That is respect. Now this is the part of the story that a lot of people glossed over, but it's actually the most important part. Usyk is asked directly how Joshua is doing mentally and physically, and he gives this careful, considered answer that tells you more between the lines than it does on the surface. Physically, he says AJ is in good shape, but then he mentions that a doctor advised Joshua to take things slowly, not to rush, to be patient with the process. That detail is significant. It suggests AJ has been managing something health-related, and the camp has been structured around that reality rather than just pushing him at full pace from day one. Then Usyk pivots into this speech about what a real champion is. And it's one of the most genuine things you'll hear from a fighter at his level. He says a champion is not always the person holding the belt. A champion is the man who keeps living, keeps working, keeps looking forward and saying, "I can, I will," and never gives up. You do not have to be a genius to work out who he's directing that message at. He ends it by saying Anthony is alive every day, every second. Coming from the man who took his titles, that hits different. So where does all of this connect to Tyson Fury? because that's the fight everyone wants to see, and based on everything coming out of this situation, it looks like that is very much the destination. Usyk himself plants the seed early. He mentions 2026 to 2027 as the window where he sees AJ potentially becoming undisputed champion. That's not a throwaway line. That's Usyk, one of the most calculated fighters of his generation, mapping out a vision for his training partner's future. He's not just helping AJ get fit, he's helping him think like a champion again. And if AJ gets through the Fury fight, and that is a massive if, the storyline writes itself, because Usyk is the undisputed champion. Fury is the man Usyk beat, Joshua is the man Usyk beat, and now Usyk is training AJ to go and beat Fury. It's completely circular and absolutely ridiculous in the best possible way. Fury himself got wind of all this, and his response was peak Fury. He basically said training with Usyk won't help AJ at all because he's punched the head off both of them. Then in the same breath, he said he hopes AJ is actually in Usyk's corner when they fight, so that after he beats Usyk, he can call AJ out on the spot. He even said he'd bring Lennox Lewis into his own corner to match the drama. You genuinely cannot script this. Now here's a question that doesn't get asked enough. What's in this for Usyk? Because on the surface it looks like pure generosity. But when you dig into how Usyk operates, nothing is random. This is a man who had his father pull him out of boxing as a kid to learn Ukrainian dance for 2 years just to develop his footwork. Everything in his career has been deliberate and purposeful. So why invest this much time and energy into AJ? A few reasons stand out. First, there's the genuine brotherhood element. Usyk is not a man who does things for optics. If he's calling AJ his brother and taking him to his church, that relationship is real. Second, Usyk is a man who cares deeply about boxing's legacy and about fighters around him growing. He said himself, "If I can help my opponents, I will help them." That's just who he is. Third, and this is the cynical but logical take, an AJ who gets back to the top level is eventually a bigger fight for Usyk or a bigger story in the world he operates in. A broken AJ helps nobody. A resurgent AJ is good for the whole sport. Step back and look at what this entire story actually represents, and it's kind of beautiful in a weird boxing way. Two men who fought each other twice. One dominated the other completely. And instead of there being bitterness or distance, what emerged is apparently one of the most genuine friendships in the sport right now. Usyk saw something in Joshua beyond just a defeated rival. He saw a hard-working, smart, kind man going through a difficult period who needed the right environment and the right people around him. And he opened his doors completely.
I don't think Team Usyk at this point are trying to restructure him and break him down and they're trying to add to the qualities that he has. And
back onto Anthony Joshua, there was a fear for myself back when he was with Derek James that they're turning, as Tony Bellew phrased it, a dog into a cat, where he was wanting to become a polished boxer instead of a knockout artist. Training with Usyk now, that's not going to be a bad thing for anyone, but is there a fear that he is going back to that and maybe looking to box perfectly and brush up on them things instead of being a guy who knocks people out?
No, because I think you have to perform to your mindset, if you like. And AJ is a student of the game. He's always looking to improve. He's still a devastating puncher, but he doesn't make as many mistakes as he used to. You can go through those levels being a devastating puncher and knocking people out, but when you come up against pound for pound great fighters, you've got to have a bit more about you. Do you know what I mean? You can be a dangerous guy, but you're just not going to win those fights without great fundamentals. And I think people actually underplay his improvements as a fighter in that respect. His defence, his jab, his footwork. Like, it's much better than it used to be. But maybe he's not as erratic as he used to be. And when you're erratic, that is sometimes an asset, but only an asset at a certain level. So, no, I don't think, I don't think Team Usyk at this point are trying to restructure him and break him down and they're trying to add to the qualities that he has. And they're a phenomenal team, and he loves it out there.
AJ on his side said something that will stick with him forever. He said if he had known what this level of work looked like earlier, he would have been undisputed. That's not a dig at his old team. That's a man who has genuinely had his eyes open to a completely different standard of preparation and is now rebuilding himself around that standard. Whether that journey ends with AJ standing over Tyson Fury or not, nobody knows. But the fact that Oleksandr Usyk, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, believes in him enough to bring him inside his circle, call him his brother, and invest in his comeback, that alone tells you that Anthony Joshua is nowhere near finished. That's the full story. Usyk's first words on training AJ, the brotherhood, the Fury fight on the horizon, and the most unexpected comeback story in boxing right now taking shape behind closed doors. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think AJ beats Fury with Usyk in his corner? Subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you on the next one.